The following podcast may contain spoilers.
Hey everybody, we're back. Sorry if it's been a while.
It's been a while.
No, it has.
It has been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. We're doing our best, but our schedules are weird and don't coincide. So we're having some issues recording and getting stuff edited on time, or at least in the schedule we'd like. But we're YouTube creators, right? Except on the podcast.
All right. Basically, having a job sucks, and yeah. So
yeah. No, we're doing our best, and we will release content as regularly as we can. But I won't probably say weekly from this point forward. But we are back again now,
Semi-annually, sometimes.
when we can. My name is Jonathan Kenny. This is the Treading the Path of Heaven podcast. I'm joined by my co-hosts.
I'm Bill. I'm Richard.
I'm a co-host, always. I've always been a co-host.
This is
the second episode.
Nope, always.
I mean, is he a perennial guest now?
Nope.
A host in spirit?
Definitely not a perennial guest. Definitely a co-host. Definitely always been a co-host. We've always been at war with East Asia. Don't worry about it.
What?
Trade war, maybe. Oh god, so depressing. Go back to fun book stuff.
Some would say not fun book stuff, but
I mean, yeah, that's fair too. This week, after our long hiatus, you may.
Well, no, I mean, if we count release schedule.
Oh, if it's release schedule, I guess this is going to be relatively close to our actual last release, which was a giant hiatus between those. So we're sorry about that. I think I also missed the Reddit post on our last one, so we just been out of context. Sorry, guys.
One of those will happen before this
get
comes
it
up.
Soon.
Yeah.
But anyway, we are talking this week about God Asura, which I think was like the second or third novel I started reading. On Wuxia World. I think third.
It's your third one.
Yeah, I think it was the third one I read.
Okay.
I started it relatively early. I remember it's had two major translators as far as I'm aware.
What was it? Flower or something?
Yeah, Flower Bed 2, I think was the name of the first translator. He was a great translator. Or Flower Bridge 2, maybe. I don't remember exactly what. Pull it up for me.
I'm pulling it up. Just continue.
But essentially, and then the new translator, which is Yongwin Lee, which is a nice reference as well. Talking about Legend of the Galactic Heroes, which just had a great new first season. Go watch it.
I'm so happy, but I'm also sad because I love Legend of Galactic Heroes, but I know that it ruins me for other shows.
It is such a great novel, so far ahead of its time, and it got a really incredible anime adaptation in I think the 80s, I think.
It's like 80s until the late 90s.
Yeah, and it was incredible and completely underappreciated, and almost nobody knew about it, which is why I was so happy that it got a new release. But anyway, this is not the Legend of the Galactic Heroes episode.
Treading the path of anime.
The Martial God Asura episode.
And the old translator was Flower Bridge 2, and he left about a year ago.
Yeah.
At the end of book 3, chapter 1004.
Yeah, so it's Yongwin Lee is now translated well over what Flower Bridge did.
2,853. So
yeah, as of this recording,
the new translator is a monster.
Oh, he's great. I will say, in other translators' defense, Martial God Asura chapters are in general very short.
Still 1,000 chapters a year.
I don't know how long. I honestly don't know the character links, but based on what the character links are in other novels that I'm familiar with, the kind of common maybe 3,000 to 4,000 characters in a chapter. My suspicion is that Martial God Asura is written more in the 1,500 to 2,000 range per chapter.
I mean, that's still a lot.
Not to say it's not translated, and there are so many absurd names in this book and series, and there are a lot of series that have techniques that travel with their main characters and develop and no. Chufeng is always no, I've learned the new best awesome techniques, and these will be my techniques until I find the new better techniques at the higher level. Which is nice because it's a rotating cast. He will occasionally bring one back for a moment of glory. He'll be you know, in a new realm and fighting some weak assholes, and it'll be like, I'll use this golden bow thing that I got back in like the first book of the series.
Oh man,
Now I'm destroying mountains with it, but you know, it's fine.
it's callbacks to old things, man.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, it definitely is. I will say I really like this series. It is. There are some very legitimate complaints about it. One of which I'll be getting to pretty shortly here. One in particular, but the story is a little formulaic in that it has like it. If we're talking about a typical genre novel, there's, you know, the pre-ascension arc, then the Infernal Realm arc, and then maybe like another Infernal Realm arc or something to that effect. But the story is usually caught up in 2 or 3 major acts. Whereas Martial God Asura, like, I think at the point where I am in the story, he's already ascended 3-4 times maybe
Jeez.
to different realms, and like it's all been awesome. Don't get me
what's before we get in, because I actually have questions for these realms. What is the novel translations? Not novel translation.
The novel updates website.
Novel updates summary for this play.
What's it say, Bill?
One night, a mysterious and unexplained phenomenon occurs in the 9 provinces. 5 years later, Chu Feng, a regular outer disciple of the Azure Dragon School, awakens one of the mysterious 9 lightning beasts and discovers an egg sealed inside him. From here, we follow Chu Feng as he crosses the continent, beating up strongest senior brothers, raiding tombs, destroying sects, and of course, as he conquers beauties.
Oh, 1 second. So there's 9 provinces.
Yep.
There's 9 divine animals.
Lightning beasts.
Lightning
beasts.
beasts.
Yeah.
9 lightning beasts. For the Azure Dragon sect, he's pregnant.
No, there's just an egg that has been sealed inside of him.
Yeah. No. It's not an egg like not like fertilized egg. Think like Yoshi egg.
Oh, okay.
Like trapped in his like inner space.
Is it like part of his Dantian?
No, but that's a close enough representation for what this is. It's specifically in his world spirit space. This novel has 2 forms of cultivation. There's normal martial cultivation, which is what you typically expect, you know, flip over your hand and flip over mountains and overturn seas, punch real hard, move real fast, fly through the air by kicking through the air or pushing ki under you, whatever you have. But then there's also world spirit powers, which are somewhere a mix somewhere between like spiritual power and psychic power, and specifically formations.
Oh, is there heavy formations in this?
Yeah, but not like not necessarily like set up flags formations, although that is sometimes part of it. But more like I don't know. You when you see like a mystic inscription show up that has like takes physical form in like a show like this or a cultivation thing like this, like imagine something like that.
So like they wave their hand, 5 characters appear, fly out to different positions, and then set up like a pentagram.
Yeah.
See, that's what I originally thought formations were gonna be, because I remember that from like old 90s animes where they'd have like dudes setting up formations with stuff and all of that stuff and seals. But then the flags started showing up all the time, and I'm like, are they planning golf flags to seal people?
I mean, imagine that.
It is that too, but it's like it's more than that. It's kind of a vague power that kind of does what the author needs it to do at the stage in the story.
Speaking of the author, a couple other key points. The author is Kind-Hearted B.
Nice guy.
The year it was published or started being released, 2013, and it has a prequel, or there is a series that was released before it. War God Asura. Released in 2011.
War God Asura.
Yeah, I'm actually not familiar with that one.
You said it's a prequel?
Yes.
Yeah, I was aware there are other stories related to this, but I personally haven't read any of them.
Holy crap! Yeah, there's a War God. I wonder if it's like what Martial World is to True Martial World.
That's my guess. Is it's something as kind of loosely related as that, where they are clearly in the same universe and the same divine objects are important in the universes, but they're so far apart in time that they're irrelevant to each other.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm aware, I haven't really gotten to the part in either of those stories where they really interact, just where you're aware that they're in the same universe.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, world spirit powers. Oh, right. Kind-hearted B is awesome. I just want to throw out, he, at the beginning of this translation, and I think, I'm not sure what the current state is, but has been in communication with the translators of the story over here. So when they have questions about stuff, he has given them answers. And like, this is the interpretation of, oh no, later in the story this happens, and that's why this is named this. That sort of stuff. But then also, he's recorded videos and like sent them over to us. Like to
really cool.
Like recorded videos not for Chinese fans that have been translated for us, but recorded a video for American fans of his work that he sent to the translator to translate and give to us.
That's awesome.
There will be a link of that in the description below.
Surely. We'll put it
yeah. But that's like, and it was a cool video. He talked about like where he was inspired from, and you know, like what writing means to him, and like thanked us for being fans, that kind of stuff. It was a really cool video. I think we actually referenced it on an old one of like our first episodes. Actually, we talked about authors being in contact with the people over here, and that's one of the things I was talking about.
That's one of the, like, honestly, like, not I can't stress this enough. That's some of the coolest stuff you ever hear, because you know, we are reading translations of stuff that wasn't really meant for us. So
yeah,
it's cool to see that they appreciate our fandom. You know,
it's really cool, and like I don't know what the whole there's a lot of politics involved in that now, and I don't really know what the current state of affairs is, and I hear different stories on both sides of it, and I obviously tend to side with Usha World because that's where I started reading, but I don't know how valid that is or whether that's my own bias.
That was the sect you grew up in, bro. Like,
exactly. I've got, you know, I have filial, I felt whatever.
Filial piety.
That I can't pronounce words right now. Apparently,
that's okay, bud. I got you.
Bill will pronounce all the words for you. Bill, say all the words Kenny's about to say.
All the words Kenny's about to say?
Oh,
fuck
he
you, Bill.
got you there.
Man,
anyway.
that was hard.
But yeah, no, I was, yeah, I don't know. I've been kind of going around things. One of the things I was really saying, or was going to, was the legitimate criticisms of this series, which is, it is a little formulaic in that he gets to a new place, he powers up to the strongest level of power in that place, he solves the crises of that place, he ascends to the next realm. And if you're talking about that, that is the basic formula of this story. But it's pretty forgivable to me in this case, because one, Chufeng is a different protagonist that I think than is usually in these stories. He's more vicious, more ferocious, holds way more true to the adage of like being merciful to your enemies is being merciless to yourself. But also, Chufeng is incredibly proud. Like, very proud.
Think like if you take Against the Gods, if you take Yun Chi and just sort of like multiply him a little bit.
Yun Chi like has a past and realizes that like his actions have consequences and feels bad about the shit he does sometimes. He still does it without batting an eye because he's murdered millions. Chufeng is like, no, you insulted my honor, so I'm going to destroy your reputation, ruin your sect, kill your family, torture you, and then let you die. But I'm also going to let you basically be the impetus of it yourself.
Wow.
Like, he does the cultivation, like, he's basically the cultivation equivalent of fucking Saw.
No, it's cultivation Eric Cartman.
Basically. It's like Eric Cartman if Eric Cartman wasn't, like, the worst person.
All right, and just for everyone's reference, where's Eric Cartman from? We've got listeners from all over the world, you guys.
That's from Comedy Central's long-running comedy, South Park.
Thank you.
Geez, what, going into season 22 this September?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Comedy
sweet.
Central, hey.
Sweet free plug, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we will advertise for you every week. We'll talk about it. We'll do a 5 minutes of South Park every week if you want to give us money, man. I'll sell out. I don't give a shit.
Oh man, sell it in a second. Please, someone offer me money.
In a half a second.
I guarantee if they were offering me money, this podcast would never be late.
No, but that's like That's just what these people in these books would do too. Them given the option.
But that's what I'm saying. Chufeng is an interesting character. So unlike some of the other formulaic Chinese cultivation novels that I read, the formula doesn't weigh on me so much because Kind-Hearted Bee, I feel personally, knows how to execute.
I mean, if the formula is well executed, you can't be frustrated as long as you're not bored reading it. And
I'm not. Like I personally am somewhere in the 2700s of this book. It's been a great ride. I really like where it is. There's been questions that I had at the beginning of the novel that have been answered. New questions have arisen. I care about the overall plot. I want to know what's happened.
Speaking of the overall plot, give us a taste. How's this go?
I mean, I did basically follow
the beginning part.
The beginning part. Okay. So like we said, we've got the. I'm sorry. I actually want to just do my two other things real quick first.
Sorry.
Because I do want to talk about the major thing before we go into the plot.
Well, hold up.
Synopsis.
Oh, let me chime in here, okay? Let me chime in here because I have not read Martial God Asura for a couple of reasons. Two reasons. One, I haven't got around to it. And two, I've heard some hilarious stuff about this novel. Hilarious and horrifying stuff about this novel.
I was gonna say, what do you define as hilarious?
Yeah,
what's hilarity to you?
Off stuff like there's mad memes about Martial God Asura. I'm gonna be the one. I'm gonna break this open. Okay, murdering people via rape to death is what I've heard.
Okay, yeah, there is. The main character of Martial God Asura at one point in the story rapes two girls. Like that happens. And
to death?
No, actually. Like they die because of it, but he does not rape them to death.
All right.
He rapes them and then his brother, like one of their brothers and the other one's like, and the fiance, he rapes this guy's sister and his fiance.
Sounds to me like you're trying really hard to justify how they didn't get raped to death when they really got raped to death.
Well, I mean, he didn't fuck him with his penis until they died.
All right.
Like,
all right.
He had sex with them and he's like, haha. And then their brother / fiance comes in and is like, what? You're not pure? And murders them.
Whoa.
That's even worse.
Okay, well, that's not as much his fault.
Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the murder part should definitely not be on his part for that part.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he's still guilty of the rape, it sounds like.
Still awful, though.
Okay, yeah. And look, that's what I'm saying. It is awful. Rape is bad. Like, rape is always bad. It's not a good thing.
No one's a fan of rape. Not one person is a proponent of rape except rapists, I guess.
It is... I don't even think they're super cool with it. I think it's more like a compulsion.
Yeah.
But, like, here's the thing. What bothers me about it is not the fact that people are frustrated with the fact that the main character rapes somebody, because that's not cool. It sucks. But every meme I see about this is, hey, oh man, Martial God Asura, his main battle tactic, rape. Only thing he does. It has occurred one time in the story, but that's not the main defense of it. The main defense of it is that the book doesn't characterize it as a good thing. Like, he does it, but first of all, here's the context that's always left out.
Okay, I need this.
The two people that he raped had just drugged him with an aphrodisiac because they were planning to force him to have sex with another girl that he didn't want to have sex with.
That's a lot of context to put into a meme, though.
I'm not saying it should be in the meme, but like I've heard a lot of people say like I'll never read this story because the main character is a rapist.
See, the thing is like I've had people tell me to avoid Martial God Asura. Just say Martial Guard. Avoid MGA because of like they said it's lowbrow. Rape is one of his literally, they told me rape is one of his cultivation techniques.
I like MGA.
And I'm like, dude, really?
It's like, and that's what I'm saying. It's not, I don't have a problem with people raising issue with rape because it's not cool. I have an issue with people not like defending the way the story is actually written. It is being accused of way worse than it actually is. But there's still more that I have to say about it. The other somewhat defensible part about this is that the book itself doesn't characterize it as a cool act. Like, there are hundreds of chapters of negative consequences. Chufeng feels terrible about it. It is like one of the first things in his life that he regrets doing. It's awful. He feels bad. He goes out of his way to try and help those people, and like he changes as a character. He has growth. And also, one of the characters is not actually dead. Spoilers. She goes off and like ends up, because of like a cultivation technique that goes wrong, becoming like a monster. And he has to deal with that. It's like bad. It causes a lot of people to die, some of whom he cares about. And like he has to fix her, and he goes a long way to like make amends and try and do things for it. Like it's bad, yes. But the book thinks so too.
Okay.
There's a scene early on where, like really early on, where this guy wants him to marry into his clan. So he's like, so he ends up doing this aphrodisiac bit again, but to have him sleep with his daughter so that, he'd be like, well, you have to take responsibility. And so it happened. And he's like, all right, fine. This is my wife. Like,
oh, he wipes up the girl that was forced on him via drugs?
Yeah. No, the first time, well, actually, he also takes the other daughter in this situation, too. That's kind of his comeuppance in this case.
Well, that was the one he wanted, and then they wanted to force him on the older one.
So they did a switcheroo and drugged up the room, and it's like, he'll have sex with the older one, and then he'll have to marry him, and then we'll have the little one to marry off. And he's like, no, I'm still going to marry her. You've just given me the older one, too.
That's funny, but also horrifying that the family would do that.
Yeah, but see, that's what I'm saying. Like, this is the mores of this world. Like, this sort of stuff has happened earlier in the book. Also, I mean, there was a guy that like lipped off to him in a hotel. Didn't like do shit or attack his friends. He just came up and was uppity. And Shufeng was like, nah, none of that. Kills his entire entourage, steals all their shit. Like not like kills, like brutally dismembers, because that's how Chufeng does stuff. At this point in the series, he has lightning powers, so he just like chars a few of them. Like his just oppressive might splatters Minnie into pools of blood. This is the level of things that occur in this novel.
Metal as fuck for just someone shading you for a second.
Oh, no. That was what he did to the people surrounding the guy. What he did to the guy was, remember World Spirit Formations? Yeah. So he sets up World Spirit Formation, and this particular formation takes all of the septic waste of the hotel and the town, collects it into the formation, and then he puts the guy in there. And he's like, hey, this formation lets you breathe shit. And also sustain yourself on it. You can't escape this formation. You can live as long as you want to. Bye. And then he traps him underground and doesn't tell anyone about it.
Banishes someone to the shit dimension for talking shit.
Dude, that escalated so quick.
Like,
I'd rather just be killed and dismembered.
No, it sounds like that was the option he was given him.
This one leads into one of the other pretty legitimate complaints about the series, is that the novel constantly lauds Chufeng as a righteous hero.
But he's not.
Which, like, in a very, very specific sense, I can see what they're going from. Because, like, he does a lot of hoist people by their own petard, and, like, he does a lot of, like, facing up to situations that he shouldn't be able to win because it's the right thing to do. And then he wins because he's Chufeng, or because plot armor exists.
Oh, and there is major face slapping. Like,
yeah, no, there's so much face slapping in this series. There's one point at which he orders an army to literally slap himself in the face 100 times, and anyone that doesn't slap themselves with their full strength for any of those 100 slaps will immediately die, and he'll know because he's watching.
Oh no!
How does he know how strong they can hit?
He knows.
He has that vision.
He's watching.
Honestly, that's kind of the point, is that, like, Chufeng is one of those, like, max stats bullshit character. Like, he is only limited by his cultivation realm. If there's a way he can perceive something, he can perceive it. If there's a formation he can solve it.
I see.
Well, okay. I understand we went over the shit dimension guy. Do they ever return to check up on the shit dimension guy?
Oh, no. That's that guy's fate.
He's just gone.
There is eventually someone being like, where's my son? But they don't find him.
He's in the shit dimension, says no one.
the underground shit dimension.
I mean, are those really unbreakable? Like,
oh, to him, yeah, absolutely. No, world spirit is power is what like he is like a realm above that other guy in world spirit power. But the point is, don't talk shit around Chu Feng.
So that covers your third?
No, the third one is the rape thing. Actually, sorry, that I had ordered them differently in my head. Sorry, so I guess that ended up being the third one was the fact that he's lauded as a righteous hero, which, like, as you may have figured out by my conversation up to this point, he's pretty vicious and not super righteous in his methods.
I mean, it can't ever be considered righteous because...
But it can in the context. Like, if everyone else around you is so, like so shitty, like, even if you do one good thing, doesn't matter how shitty you are, you're still that one good thing, like, more right. You know what I mean? If you do the right thing 1/4 of the time, you're better than everyone who does it none of the time.
There's different definitions of morality, and like that's definitely one of them.
That's
like,
yeah, but I mean, it's a pretty applicable one to this universe.
Okay,
which is the thing. Like, everyone's kind of shitty. Everyone's striving to get stronger. Everyone's trying to carve out their place in the world in this universe because you have to survive. And like, that's just kind of, this is a very brutal, not fun world for most people. And it is very much a dog eat dog, the strong rule, and the weak fucking survive.
It sounds like Chu Feng is not one of the weak people.
Well, he is, but only because he, rises to where he is weak.
I see. Repeatedly?
No.
He fights above his level pretty much all the time. I
need to understand, what is this character's goal? Like, okay, like, I want to. You explaining that this world is pretty terrible, right?
Yeah.
Like, this world is terrible.
It's rough.
It's a situation where if someone talks shit to you, you murder all of their friends that did nothing and then put them in a shit dimension.
Well, okay, so
what
like,
is his
they
goal?
didn't do nothing.
You can
they made bad
that
friends.
he's not one of the actual members of the Chu. Like, he's not. There is a Chu family that he is a part of, but the Chu family the Azure Dragon sect and the Chu family that exists there is not his, like, real family. He's adopted.
Okay.
Which is a fairly early fact in the series.
Also, the fact that he has a 9-headed lightning dragon.
Yeah, inside him, that is his bloodline and his cult. It's tied to his cultivation. It's very cool and one of the more fun things about the series.
Is that why he was adopted by the Chu family?
Yes, but you don't find out why those are related for a very long time.
Okay.
Well, in that regard, how far into this book have you read?
I'm about maybe 130, 150 chapters from where they are.
Okay.
That's still like 2,700 something chapters, right?
I'm going to mainly stick to stuff that happens in the 9 provinces in this story, with the exception of one that I'm planning. So, honestly, that's mostly, like, that's all within the first 1,000 chapters.
Okay.
And honestly, a good bit lower than that. It's just been a long time since I've read some of it, so I don't know exactly where it takes place.
I've read about 20 chapters, maybe 30.
But yeah, right. Adopted family, right? So he goes, and being Chu Feng, like, somebody steps to him and he's like, no, none of that. So he goes and he solves the problem. He kills the young master. Like, he's the person where the guy that shows up that, like, the young master's like, you couldn't do this. My uncle could kill you with the wave of his hand. And then the uncle shows up and he can kill Chu Feng with the wave of his hand. Chu Feng's like, I don't give a shit, and breaks the guy's neck. Like, that has occurred so many times in this series.
Oh, yeah, no. He doesn't hold hostages. He holds corpses.
And at the beginning of the series, usually that got solved by, like, plot armor. Like, some mysterious stranger would show up and solve the problem for him. But I think that has to do with I think the author honestly improved a lot over the course of writing this series. Like, I like what the novel does a lot more now than what it did at the very beginning, and they're very different stories. The two, but like, Chu Feng grows as a person, and this is one of the things that does it for him. He goes and solves the problem. Those other people aren't cool with it. He doesn't, like, cut out the root. He leaves, like, he just goes and, like, does the thing, comes back, and is, like, living his life and goes off and has his own adventures. Comes back and finds out the vast majority of his adopted family has been murdered. Their family home has been completely desecrated.
Good way to piss off an MC.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I don't blame him. Chu Feng went and did some stuff to a whole like a family.
Yeah,
they don't get revenge. You didn't finish the job, so your family gotta die now.
And he learns. Like that's the like brutal shit happens to him at the beginning of this story, and he's like, no, fuck this. Like not again. Not if I can stop it.
I will say, Richard, you did call it earlier. This is one of the most heavy metal MCs.
Oh yeah, God no. So like that's two things got me into the series. One was my friend describing just how metal this guy was. Like it's in some ways vengeance porn. But then the other thing that got me into it was the translator release from Flower Bridge 2. In particular, one thing he did over a December, he did a 31 Days of Christmas. Where he did one chapter, one bonus chapter released on the first day, then did like 2 chapters on the second day, then 3 chapters on the third day, and like kept that up through all 31 days of the season, and then released like an additional 60 chapters on the last day.
That guy's also a monster.
Yeah,
Jesus
and he would occasionally just do what he would call like a tsunami, where he would just release like 60 to 100 chapters at a time. And like it would be incredible because it would be unannounced. It would just happen, and it would be the best.
Yeah,
man, that's horrifying that he called them tsunamis, though.
Yeah, I suppose
They're destructive. They'll fuck up your life because you still have to sit and read 100 chapters.
Yeah, I didn't really talk. They also dug up all that clan's ancestors and threw all of their bones and the bones of the corpses into a pile of shit. A big, like, steamy shit vat.
His family's ancestors?
Like the adoptive family.
Yeah. They threw all their... They desecrated the ancestors?
Yeah, and then was like, this is what you get, Chu Feng. Like...
Oh, like, shit.
This is usually what drives the plot forward in Martial God Asura. Literally, Chu Feng's pride or his determination to stick up for a friend of his is usually what is driving the plot forward, and the trouble that entails. It's normally a jump from one set of that to the next, but he does a pretty good job of matching like tournaments and secret trials and open things that are open to people of a certain cultivation, and like him doing one-upmanship. It's just a good time. I was saying he's like very like vicious, very like he is very much a hoist people by his own petard, and I think one of my favorite stories about that takes place kind of later, in one of the later arcs. But there is essentially a big gathering where all the young heroes of this particular realm are invited to come and participate in this. They have to be under a certain age and above a certain cultivation rank. So there is a large favorite to win because he's, I think, won like the past like 2 or 3 or some shit like that.
Chu Feng's a dark horse?
Chu Feng's not a dark horse because no one knows he's entering, but he's always a dark horse. He's not a dark horse to us because we know he's going to win. But essentially, this guy, because he's arrogant, like, people generally have a good call to be arrogant in this story. Like, the idea is, and I think the underlying theme of all cultivation novels, is that every person that you encounter in this story thinks that they're the MC of the cultivation novel.
But...
they're not, though. Chu Feng is.
So they're going to die.
So this guy gives Chu Feng lip, and he's like, oh, okay, cool, that's fine. Or actually, no, I'm sorry. He doesn't give Chu Feng lip. If I remember this correctly, he's super polite to him. But Chu Feng's like, nah, I know this type of person. I'm calling his bullshit. I'm going to give him a chance to fail. So he, like, says some stuff like, you know, he's like, shows him the proper amount of respect, but does it in, like, a slightly cheeky way. Where the guy's like, oh, you're not giving me any face. I'm going to show you, but I'm going to do it in the tournament where no one can see me. So he goes to ambush him in the tournament, brings all his lackeys with him and all that shit. Chu Feng immediately beats the shit out of him. Like no even chance, like punch him in the stomach and he falls unconscious, beat the shit out of him. So he does this, throws him in a sack, ties him up, throws him in one of his bags, and just like does the tournament. Goes and finds the victory flag, like not the one that normally gets first place, but the super secret awesome one that not only like that barely anyone ever finds and is like worthy of the top prize and all this kind of shit, because that's what Chu Feng does.
Of course.
He gets taught or very early on, a technique called Heaven's Eyes, which is like a bullshit broken perception technique.
Wait,
that comes from the Asura realm.
Time out. He has eyes that lets him see your legacies, the best path, the best winning, all of it.
I mean, not. It's not like this is the like he doesn't follow Heaven's Eyes. It's more like it allows him to see like hidden formations and to understand how things link up together and like to have true perception on
to
stuff.
See the best shit.
It's think of it more like True Sight from D&D.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right.
With a little bit of what you're saying, man. You're not entirely wrong. It's just not to the degree you're thinking.
Okay. I was gonna be like, that's like bullshit.
Yes, dousing eyes.
It is, but it's taught to him by one of his world spirit. World spiritists are also kind of like summoners. They have like world spirit pets. There's 7 different realms. Anyone who is able to summon, like there's one of the realms, the Asura realm, is unequivocally the strongest realm. No one could contest it, but they're also super proud, and no one is able to force them to actually become world spirit.
Of course, you can't bond them since they're so. Yeah. Why would they listen to you? But of course, Chu Feng can do it.
But
right?
for reasons, Chu Feng has one, which is actually one of the reasons why Asura is such a big thing for him, and he sometimes takes the title because of that. But his pet from that, or not pet, but his contract from the Asura realm teaches him this technique, and that's why he has such a broken technique. Regardless, this technique lets him no-sell this particular test because he's like, it's in that boulder. And like he just goes and gets it while everyone else is like struggling and being like, oh, I've got to do this incredibly intense like spirit formation to determine if this is even a correct boulder and then unlock it. And he's like, nah, hole's right there. I'm really good at spirit formations. Unlocked. All right, cool. So then he finds the flag and he's like, all right, awesome. He picks up the flag, a big, huge beam of light signaling that he's the winner shows up, and he's like, cool, I got it. He throws the flag in his bag. Then he unstrings the guy he took out of the sack, throws him up, conceals himself with a formation, and then kind of like gives him the spiritual equivalent of a slap in the face to wake him up. So the guy wakes up, people start showing up, and they're like, oh my god, you won as expected, incredible! And Chu Feng's just sitting there waiting. He's like, do it, you fuck, do it. And he's like, yes, I won, I did it, I
took this. He just Mr. Satan the whole thing.
Of course, I defeated Cell. I did it.
And if I have to tell you that's from Dragon Ball Z.
You might have to. I don't know.
No, you shouldn't be. You should be listening to this if they have to tell you that's from
Don't
Dragon
be a
Ball Z.
gatekeeping asshole, Richard. Come on now.
You don't know who Cell is. Something's wrong with you, okay?
Hey, it's okay. I'm here for you.
Everybody knows who Cell is. All right.
I am perfect. But so he basically lets this guy take all the glory up until they get to the end, and they go up to the podium where they're going to hand out the big rewards, and the elders who are running the whole competition are like, all right, where's the flag? And he's like,
dun dun.
What? And Chu Feng's like, oh, you mean this thing in my bag? Because I won, and I found it, and I just put him in there, and he's been talking shit to all you guys, and you couldn't even tell?
He's made everybody look bad.
But specifically, this one guy.
Oh, okay.
But, like, he makes judgments on people, and, of course, they're always correct.
I mean, he's able to enforce it, so yeah.
Except for, like, you know, the few times where it's not. But those are people that have hidden their cultivations very deeply. To be frank.
So wait, are there, like, key moments of him kicking a steel wall? Like him just being like, yeah, I got this.
I'm about to face slap somebody, but you can't... His face gets slapped? Does that ever happen?
Yeah, no, it does. But here's the thing. Chu Feng is never, like, he's not a person who overestimates his own abilities. He knows exactly what he is capable of. If he goes into a confrontation, it is because he is confident of his abilities to succeed in it. That being said, he also will do things that he knows he is not capable of doing. Because it's the right thing for him to do in his mind. Like, he won't be Chu Feng if he doesn't do it.
Okay. So he's gotten out of death pretty luckily.
Yeah, a lot of times. And there's been a lot of times where he's been in really bad situations, but he's one of those guys that's like, if he gets knocked down, he's already back up on his feet. Like,
or worse,
like, there's no problem that's insurmountable. There's just problems that are more difficult.
Or worse, he gets knocked into some lucky chance that he can now get stronger from,
Oh yeah, he hoists people. So many petards. So much hoisting.
Oh, the petards.
Just a field of petards.
This reminds me of Emperor's Domination.
It's like that if the main character was not better than everyone for a reason. Well, he is better for everyone than a reason, but it's his bloodline, not his intrinsic knowledge.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, and that is the core of this series, is that Chu Feng is better than most people for a long time until that's not the case. But it takes a long time for that to be the case. But
okay,
at the very beginning of the novel, it sure isn't.
So I have another question. Like in Against the Gods, a lot of the scary things about Yun Chi isn't his cultivation, but like his skills. Like he's a perfect doctor, or like he knows poisons in and out, or he can disguise himself with like whatever
because he's a doctor.
Yeah, basically. So does Chu Feng have a because he's a doctor?
All right, you know how speedrunners use glitches and find like the path of least resistance to the lowest possible time?
Yeah.
Imagine a person who the first time they played a game took the speedrunner route, and you would have Chu Feng.
Oh, jeez.
Everything is optimal.
Yeah. It's not that he is operating above the possibilities of what he can do. He is limited by his cultivation realm and what he has in his power, what in his grasp at the time. But he will perfectly utilize what he has.
And he will break the surroundings if he must.
To the point where, like, the plot armor thing still happens, but now in this series, when plot armor happens, it's because he figured out the person was there and manipulated the situation to make it worth it for them to be plot armor. It's not they showed up because he helped their cousin at one point or some shit.
Okay, they're there in the background. He says the right words, does the right thing to make him have to be protected by this person because he has what they want.
And that's what I mean when I say that B is a better author now than he was at the beginning of the series, because his plot armor still occurs, but it has justification now.
Okay, see, that's what I like. I mean, I'm okay. Nobody... Okay, I was about to say something wild. I was about to say nobody wants to read a novel and the main character dies, but actually, I would love that. I would love to really read a novel and the main characters keep dying and they just get replaced by another main character.
I mean,
so like
history hasn't proven yet that somebody would want to read that.
Agarest Generations of War, the light novel.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
A roguelike
Why was that game's
novel?
combat fun?
Right? Everything else about it was so good. Never mind.
No, actually, everything else about that was kind of mediocre too, unfortunately. I wanted that game to be good. But yeah, no, let's talk a little bit about the origin of the story, because we usually do a little bit of the origin. Chu Feng starts off as a guy who is the laughingstock of the Azure Dragon School.
Okay.
Seems strange with everything I've said, right?
That seems kind of impossible.
So here's the thing. Cultivation resources seem to basically just not feed him. Other people can use like just a few, like within a year of the meager resources they get, are easily able to break through from the third realm, which he's stuck in, to the fourth realm. Or it might be the second to the third.
His
whatever.
cultivation foundation is just deeper than other people, probably.
Well, that is essentially the idea, is that the lightning dragons that live in his Dantian are incredibly hungry. And they like, the energy he is feeding them is nothing. So he needs, essentially at the beginning of the story, roughly like he needs way more energy than a normal disciple around him. And because he doesn't produce results, he's not getting any resources.
Of course.
But his like older adoptive sister like shares it with her, all that kind of stuff. The story really picks up around the day where he finally makes that breakthrough from the realm he's been stuck at to the realm above. And as soon as he does, it's like, you remember in Coiling Dragon where like 3s and 6 and 9 and stuff had like, or like 7 and 4 had like special things that happened.
Yeah.
Coiling Dragon, our first ever podcast?
That was
it?
Tales of Demons and Gods.
Oh no, our second ever podcast?
I think.
Yeah, okay.
That was our first nights?
It's definitely our first
It was our first nights that I wasn't there for. That's not how nights works.
Yeah, when like the Dantian stops being a gas and condenses into a liquid.
Exactly. It's one of those,
it's a big deal.
It's one of those qualitative-esque changes. So when that occurs, he becomes much stronger. It's like the lightning dragons in him essentially kind of wake up a little bit. And he doesn't know what that means, but he suddenly feels incredibly strong. So he goes to participate in this test that's occurring, And it's, he just destroys it. Like, he gets through to the end and he's like, oh shit, I got here too fast. That wasn't supposed to happen. But we see on like kind of like on an aside, these people that are controlling the test, and they're like, hey, you changed out the animal, you closed the animal cages, right? Those level 4 animals that would kill any rank 4 cultivator easily because they're beasts and not humans, and beasts are stronger at their cultivation than humans are.
Oh.
No, I thought you were supposed to close the cages. Oh, fuck. So they rush over there, and what they find is a chamber filled with dismembered animals.
Chu Feng ripped them apart.
Murdered them. Like, they show a slight bit of the fight, and it's essentially like the animal attacks him, and it's just like it's like attacking iron. Like, it doesn't even pierce his skin, and he just like tears them apart.
It's like, what if a god beast had to have a human like progression system?
So there he goes and pulls his literally his oldest trick in the book. He goes and takes the rewards, and then like goes and hides in one of the tunnels. He goes and like achieves the first place, so the people that are running it know. And then he goes and like hides in a tunnel and lets other people go there into the forefront to get the glory. And then shows up as like 3rd or 4th place.
It's just so other people don't know how good he is.
Yeah. But essentially this starts, he he was being bullied, and his family was being bullied because he was so weak and such a laughingstock. So he goes and gets revenge on them. But that, unfortunately, the person is a part of a bigger family, which then causes disruptions between him and other people. There's this like whole story, but
there's a ripple effect because he's trying to get revenge for all of the years he's been face slapped in his own clan.
Exactly.
He rises. Let me try to hard read this. He rises to the top, like, because Cream always rises to the top.
Mm-hmm.
He and then that story you told me happens probably with the whole. Okay, now you get to deal with missions outside the clan.
That story I was talking about. Yeah, essentially, yeah. That happens. Like, he runs into lucky chances in the area. He finds the Azure Dragon School is one of the more prominent schools in the province that he's in, but his province is the weakest province of the 9 provinces.
Of course.
So he has to rise to the top of that, and then he has to from there rise to the top of the 9 provinces, and then he has to rise to the 9 provinces, of course, is the weakest area in the coastal area that it shares. So he has to go in and to defeat that area.
Gotta rise to the top of this region.
But
this is the weakest region.
Oh no, these were just regionals.
Continent.
Now you gotta go to semi-region.
But it turns out these are just the strongest. This is just the strongest region. There's actually the Holy Land of Martialism. That's where the real martial people are.
It was cool. Rise to the top of that.
But no, that's kind of how this story progresses, and it's a fun ride. A lot of it is a little fuzzy for me now because it's been a long time since I've read the beginning of the story. But suffice to say, it's a lot of him being young and brash and dealing with the consequences, suffering the consequences, and like how he evades the consequences of his actions. But he gets world spirit power, starts developing that. He starts learning about his bloodline, starts developing that. As he like raises realms and as he goes up in cultivation, his lightning dragons like start to wake up and respond more. So like that becomes more a part of his power.
Do they talk to him? Are they like talking dudes?
We're lightning dragons. Like that kind of stuff? Like they introduce themselves first?
Are they like Pokemon?
It's
like
a pretty weird, tenuous relationship. But it's pretty fun. But it has all these moments, like these really cool, interesting moments that really foreshadow stuff later in the series where like he'll be in the middle of a really intense fight and one of his friends will be like close to dying, or something will happen that'll trigger his emotions really intensely, and like he'll punch and like it cuts to like another scene, and like he wakes up in a bed and like they're talking about shit, and they swirl back around to it, and like the landscape where he was fighting is just now a giant crater where it remains, and the landscape is irrevocably altered.
Okay, that's interesting.
You learn stories about him, like a person came to deliver him, and then delivered him to someone, and then walked away. And then lit fire burst out from him, and like lit a certain radius around him on fire, and that fire is still burning to this day.
See, I always loved that. Like I'm reading a novel right now that utilizes something similar, where like it will do like you get to see awesome action first person, but when shit really does get epic, it switches to like a third person view from a different character or a lesser character or an enemy soldier who's witnessing this happening,
or a drone.
And, like something horrific happens, and to us, if we were reading it in first person, it's less awesome because, of course, that's what this character do. But to a normal mortal witnessing this, this is like all hell has broken loose, and the weight of the action is greater when you get to witness it in that third person, separated from the main character.
Yeah, but it's a really fun story. There's a lot of typical tropes that you'd expect out of a novel that are played very well. There's a lot of Chu Feng playing the fisherman. There's one in particular I liked that reminded me very much of like the fight between Apachai and that random Chinese assassin with a bird in the Chinese restaurant in History's Strongest Disciple, Kenichi, where it was the two masters fighting, and they weren't really fighting. They were like remaining motionless, but like they were fighting with the possibilities of where they could punch in their mind.
That is such a cool concept in Kenichi, I gotta say, where it's just like lines being drawn, and at any point if you cross these lines, you die.
So it's just like one person who can read the lines, like telling Kenichi, and he's like moving through them like it's a goddamn like laser light system in a heist.
No, it's like that game where they send a panel at you with a human cutout, and you have to like fit yourself into it.
Basically, but it's like that, where he's basically doing that, where there's these two like the leader of the Azure Dragon School and this other person are fighting over a technique, and because they're fighting, he just runs in and takes it, and then like runs away because they're holding each other at bay.
Incredible, the best strategy.
But it's just like a lot of shit like that where it's at the beginning it feels a lot more like a kind of a typical cultivation novel. The beginning arc, apart from the brutality, actually reminds me a lot of like the Reliant sect in I Shall Seal the Heavens. It has a lot of similar like beats that it hits, like with particular medicines and stuff. Like it's just a good fun story.
Like when you told me about the cultivation and they're not giving it to him and he's trying to climb and everything, I got Reliant Sex vibes from it. Yeah. Like, and when you told me about his clan master, the Azure Dragon guy, and he's trying to grab the thing, that reminds me of another scene at the end of that volume where the actual leader of the Reliant sect has to like boast against the other members, and they're so strong, and he could get killed with a thought, but he's still doing stuff. It's.
I do want to question. Does he have like a specific mentor, or is it just like he picks up a teacher, he outgrows that teacher, picks up another?
Yeah, he very quickly surpasses his teachers most of the time. But he is very much a person who values relationships. Like, if you were a friend of his, as long as you do not like betray him, like you're in with him. He will fight for you through thick and thin. And there's no like he makes a friend at the beginning of a place and then like he gets up to be the strongest person in the realm. Like he's like, my brother, hey, it's you. I'm just as happy to see you now as I was when you were when we were chill and I was your power level or weaker than you.
Wow. Well, that's nice. Like I always liked that.
Yeah. No, the relationship, like being friends with Chu Feng is a gamble. Because if you survive it, the payoffs are huge. You're probably one of the major players in your world. But you have to survive it first.
What is your percentage chances of surviving? Like 20%?
Sound great.
It really depends on the situation. I mean, like, depending on the situation, somewhere between like 5 and 60%.
5?
Depends on if he just got
chance to survive.
As a wide gulf.
That is quite risky. Oh, man.
It is.
But I'd rather be Chu Feng's friend or family member than be his enemy.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing where like it's like being friends with like the Count of Monte Cristo. Like actual friends with the Count of Monte Cristo. Like suddenly you're a noble because you were friends with the Count of Monte Cristo back when it mattered.
Yeah, that's right. The Count of Cagliostro.
I did try to say the Count of Cagliostro, and that is not the right character. That's a villain.
No, he's fine. Don't worry about it. He's got the douche face.
But I don't really have honestly too. I honestly was surprised at the amount I had to say about Martial God Asura.
I mean, anytime you've read over 2,000 chapters of anything, you want to talk for a minute.
Yeah, no, and like I think that's probably the case. It is funny, like when I read the chapter comments and they're like, "This chapter's so this is so formulaic," but it's like the chapter comment on chapter 2713 or something, and it's like, well, yeah, no, it's a pretty legitimate complaint. I understand where you're coming from. I've thought the same thing myself once or twice, depending on where it is. But I'm also right there with you, read 2,700 chapters, so I guess it can't be all bad.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like. Where do you read this one?
This one is also on Usha World.
Cool. Very cool.
So my basic point here, if you were not immediately turned off when I tried to defend a rape scene depicted as an evil bad act, I appreciate you listening this far.
Thanks.
My basic point, what I really wanted to get across with this episode is if the reason you are not reading Martial God Asura is because you read somewhere that rape is a battle tactic, maybe give it a chance. It may be too much. It is very visceral. It does not like shy away on its description of things.
Oh God.
I mean, I won't say it like it's not. It doesn't do it excessively, but it doesn't turn its eye.
Oh yeah, no, he loves talking about guts strewn everywhere.
Yeah, there are many pools of bloods and dismemberments and things that happen on screen, so to speak. But so it is definitely not for everyone. It's brutal, it's rough. But one of the reasons I got into cultivation novels in general is because I was tired of Japanese main characters and English main characters that have to be good. I mean, English main characters that came out of broadcast regulations that, forced them to be moral. So that's how broadcast stuff happened in America. But I'm just happy to have a character that, the enemy's monologuing and they're like, while that's happening, they're plotting on how to kill them, not doing stupid shit. But do you guys have any further questions? Anything like that?
I mean, I think you really hit everything up.
Yeah, you explained how the story works and like what tropes it plays around with. It sounds like you've done pretty much all you can without just telling the fucking story.
I mean, we do have a section for the rest of it.
Yeah. I'll see what I can come up with. That'll be fun. Do we have any business we take care of?
I don't have my phone, so I don't have the reviews. Womp womp. Oh, hey, it's my phone. Hang on. Hey, Vamp. Talk about other stuff.
Anybody who paid $5 to watch the stream of this podcast could watch me hand the phone over to Rick.
And you would see that it's so hot in this apartment that I'm not wearing a shirt, which
it's pretty hot.
Getting hot in here. Hey, ladies.
But yeah, it's you can, if you want to reach us, you can send us an email at tigerrollercoaster@gmail.com or shoot us a tweet on Twitter at tigercoaster.
Yeah, that one.
We do appreciate all the feedback we get. We've gotten a few emails, and we do very much appreciate you reaching out to us. We've got some people that are saying that like they don't have any friends that share in this hobby, so listening to us is kind of how they get that out of their system. And that's definitely an honor. I really appreciate you saying that about us, and that you take the time to listen. So,
my advice, or at least what happened with me, just force it on someone. Just like don't let them get away. Just make them read, and then.
Yeah, usually it only takes one. If they really get into the first novel, they're usually like they get the end and they get that hunger, and that's how you join the F5 sect.
Oh man, boy, did you get that hunger, man! Like
I really did get that as I was reading the tutorial. Is too hard. That F5 sect is very easy to fall into.
Like honestly, like sometimes I'll fall out of it. And then I'll come across another novel that just reignites the burning passion of being a senior brother in the F5 sect, and I just kind of lose my mind.
Yeah, no, it's great when you suddenly are like, yeah. I took like a month or two hiatus from reading, so I've got between like, well, okay, technically, counting Dolu Dalu, I've got between 8 and 300 chapters of my series to read.
Thank you, Dolu Dalu.
I love you, Dolo Dalu. Please release chapters. But yeah, no. It's God Asura is a fun read if you can stomach the violence and the brutality of it.
I mean, I definitely I'll probably drop Chaotic Sword God for a bit and pick up some Martial God Asura.
Chaotic Sword God is, yeah, it's kind of like he is as deadly as Junshin is, but more like visceral about it because like Junshin's doing it like as like a matter of efficiency and
it's just neck stabbing.
It's just like, all right, well, I gotta move on to that. They're in my way. I don't want to stop, so they need to die. They're dead. Let's move on. Whereas like with Martial God Asura, it's like, oh no, you step to me, you're all gonna die.
I would not have time for this, but I'll make time for this.
I was just trying to be chill, but like if that's how it's gonna be, I'll win.
All right, well, you guys can stop vamping because I don't know where they fucking went. Like we changed our podcast hosting stuff up, and they all disappeared. So I don't even have a good place to look for them anymore.
Okay,
the only one that I can find, we've already read. Oh, but it does mention that we should read Everyone Else's Returnee, which I have been reading, and Richard has reread all of.
I finished it again.
So like that seems like something that we're going to talk about here in the future. Sorry. That I don't have a review.
What is our next book? Because I can do Everyone Else's Returnee, or I can do Death Mage that doesn't want a fourth time.
That one does look fun.
I just got one that I just got to get one out of my system that's been in there for a long time. So I'm down for suggestions.
I mean, Everyone Else's Returnee would be fun. Richard like has read all of that. It sounds like twice, and I have like gotten 100 or so chapters in. It's a fun book.
Well,
like
you'll have had time to get a good bit more in.
Yours is very good point.
All right. Well, I guess that settles it. We'll go ahead and do Everybody Else's Returnee next. Whenever that happens to be, we'll get it out when we can.
You'll hear it eventually, maybe.
More
than likely.
Go ahead. Go ahead and subscribe, like, tell a friend about us. If you're trying to introduce a friend to a novel, we try and be a relatively spoiler-free way to introduce a person to a novel. So
anything we talk about isn't going to ruin your ability to enjoy reading the novel. I guarantee it.
Yeah,
I guarantee it.
Holy shit. I'm sorry. There's I just saw the people that subscribe to our podcast also subscribe to another podcast about Zhang and Wuxia books.
The Immortal Index has started up pretty not too long ago. I know Deathblade and a couple other translators or editors have done stuff with them. I haven't personally listened to them, but it seems like they're doing some really cool stuff. I really like their art and their stuff. As I understand it, they do like first chapter readings of books that are relevant to their topic, and they talk about how stuff like relates to myths of actual immortals and stuff.
Okay, I like that.
And actual Chinese stuff.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be
like people that actually know things about stuff and are qualified to talk about things. So props to them. I hope their podcast is great and they succeed in everything they try for.
Yeah, it looks pretty interesting. And like I say, it doesn't look like they go book by book. It looks like they go like
they kind of have
topic
by topic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's very interesting.
That's interesting.
I mean, I guess we just accidentally did a plug for another podcast in the same universe.
I haven't plugged it yet. I'm gonna go check it out first.
Yeah,
and then I'll probably plug it after.
Yeah.
Well, judging solely by the fact that they're unlike our their thumbnail, unlike ours, is not a shitty MS Paint that I made.
Dude, yours was very good. I don't know what you're talking about. Shitty.
I mean, I'm pretty proud of it for MS Paint work, but it's also MS Paint work.
I guess it's time to update things. Yeah,
we'll give it a little shake up. All right,
shake it up.
Yeah, well, maybe it'll look different when you're hearing this one. Who knows?
But anyway, thanks so much for listening to us. As always, we really appreciate it, and we really hope that you enjoyed our show.
Hey, this one says, finally a podcast about Chinese web novels. Fuck you, ballin' SJZ. Come listen to ours. Ours existed since last year at least. Come on, man.
Yo, bro.
I don't know. I guess they might have marked us off as
cool.
dead.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's true.
We got to figure out how to advertise better. But see you guys later. Thanks.
Advertise it's word of mouth. I'm Jonathan Kinney, followed by co-hosts.
Bill.
Richard.
My name is Seth. It was.
All right.
Bye.
It's no longer?
We love you.
Tiger Rollercoaster Productions. Tigers are scary. You try to get off.